Hello everyone, and today we're going to be playing against the real enemy of Master Duel, the Tamer. So we're going to be playing Adamancipators here today. Adamancipators is a deck that has always been really powerful, right? And I have been forever putting it off, forever sort of playing other things, telling myself I'm going to get to it eventually, and you know what? I've had enough. We're playing Adamancipators, and you know what? It was really good. Who would have seen that one coming? A top tier deck being really good. Now, I don't know if this is the most optimal way of building it. I don't like 60 card versions of anything. It just doesn't sit right with me. I brick way too often. So this is the version of what we're playing, and I'm super impressed. This whole deck is just really good. I love it. So we're going to be going through a few games here. We'll be doing a deck profile at the end for anyone who is unfamiliar with how Adamancipators work. We'll be going through the whole thing card for card at the end, so don't worry about it. I've got you. And we're going to be going through a few replays as well. There's not really any combos as such when it comes to this deck, because generally speaking how it works is all of your Adamancipator monsters, I say all of, there's 3, Analyzer, Researcher, Seeker, as well as your Synchro monster, the Raptite, they all generally do the same thing, where you check the top 5 cards of your deck, and if there's a level 4 lower rock monster among them, you special summon that monster to the field, and then you just combo, play the game for days. That's the whole idea, and because of that, there's not really any set or fixed combo routes, but you will be able to combo for days on end. The biggest enemy of this deck is the Tamer, far and away. So again, deck profile at the end. If you haven't seen any videos in this channel before, if this is your first time seeing us, or maybe it's not your first time and you've been around before but maybe just haven't subscribed, I would implore you to do so. It doesn't cost you anything, helps me out quite massively, and I would appreciate every little bit of support that you'd be willing to give. And again, if you're interested in chatting to me or chatting to anybody else in our little community, we of course have our open Discord server. It is over 110 members now, growing every single day. So if you want to get more involved in the deck building process, in testing, streaming our events, anything that we're doing, then of course you can do so in the Discord. And we also live stream on a somewhat regular basis. Schedules on the Discord, we'll keep you updated. I'm not going to take up any more of your time right at the start. Deck profiles at the end. Let's get into the gameplay. Alrighty, getting into game number 1. You'll notice the vast majority of these games are typically really short in terms of the turn count, but long in terms of what happens. Like I said, your biggest enemy when you're playing a deck like this is the Tamer. So we're going to be beginning this game with our Prank Kids. Opening up Dropsies isn't all that great, right? So I wanted to show off maybe a subpar hand. We go into our Prank Kids, we get Ash Blossom, we get Maxi, all of this stuff. And we're still going to just rock this guy, right? We're going to go Researcher here. Because we control a rock monster, we can special summon Researcher. Checks the top 5 of the deck for a summonable card. We hit the Crystal. So we have 2 options, Crystal or Golem. Golem's only really useful if sent from deck to graveyard. So we decide to go for the Crystal, which allows us to draw 1 on summon. We draw into the Seeker. Seeker then, similar effect, special summons itself if you have an Adamancipator. Check the top 5. We hit Doki Doki and Roxy's and the Guardian. We decide Doki Doki is the best course of action. Guardian is also really solid, but our opponents already used loads of hand traps. I doubt they have any more. We're going to go Raptite, checking the top of our deck yet again, summoning out the Kawakai Miru Supplier, which is going to grab us a Guardian straight from the deck. Doki Doki then dropping the Guardian to summon out the Analyzer, which is the final monster here. We're going to go Drag Out because we have too many monsters on the field. Too much gas, too many monsters, incredible. Analyzer checking the top of the deck yet again, going Revival Golem this time. We're going to Exceed Summon using these 2, going into the Gallant Granite, which will grab us any rock monster from the deck. We grab the Block Dragon, summoning Block Dragon out to the field here before Link summoning into Apollosa. Apollosa then, 3200 attack, 4 monster negates. We're going to grab as well, when Block Dragon sent to the graveyard, you will also grab monsters from your deck to your hand, up to 3 rock monsters whose total levels are 8. So we grab these 3. Now we're going to banish another 3 from grave to bring up Block Dragon once more. We link off in the Mask Arena. We had 2 options there. We could have gone Gigantes into a Borreload Savage Dragon, which may have been better in hindsight, but I wanted to set up a Unicorn, right? So your 2 options are, and again, whenever your options are choosing between a Borreload Savage Dragon and a Unicorn, like, you know, life is good. I wanted to keep the Savage Dragon until we were able to get more than 1 counter on it, which is why we're doing this. But again, both plays are phenomenal. They're going to go Foolish Burial. That's fine. We're playing against heroes. Heroes do not stand a chance. We're going to go Apollousa, negate the Ferris. Ferris is not coming out to the field. Is that Shadow Mist you sent to the graveyard? Yeah, Shadow Mist. You're not using your effect either. You're not searching the deck. I'm sorry. You're going to go Imperm. Oh, is that right? Well, the last card in your hand is Ferris, so I'm just going to negate your Imperm. You can't play the game. You simply cannot play the video game. And that's the thing about Adamancipators. It is just incredible. And I believe at this point they just scoop it up. Yeah, they do. And I don't blame them. I don't blame them. So that's basically a total of 6 interruptions, right? 4 on the Apollousa, 1 on the Dragite, and 1 that could have been either a Unicorn or a Vorlode Savage Dragon. Nuts. And that was after we get hit with Ash Blossom. That's after we get hit with Max C. That's pretty incredible. Plus we had another Ash Blossom ourselves. 7 interruptions. Insane. Let's get in the game 2. Alrighty, game 2 then. We have a pretty decent hand here. So I love seeing the Quakai Mirror Guardian in hand because it basically gives you a lot of protection frame 1, right? We're going to go Maxi here in response to his runic cards. He is going to chain another one of his runic spells to summon out his Huggin. So this is going to be a bit of a more difficult one here. Both the field spells going to the graveyard. He's just going to draw 2 extra cards as well, so it's not even as if he lost anything off that Maxi. He's going to go Wind Up Kitten and the Sprite Blue. Sprite Blue grabbing a Royal Sprite Jet. Beautiful. Jet then's going to grab them a starter. Greedy play. I love it. Now they're going to Exceed Summon into the Gin Buster, not going into the Gigantic right off the bat. They're going to go Elf first. Again, they're seeing that we're drawing card after card here, so we decide, you know what, they're just going to set up a couple of interruptions and leave us to it. We're going to go Droplet. We're going to drop 2 to grave, negate the board, and Loving Life. So that's pretty much that. Analyzer, because our opponent is the only one who controls a monster, we can summon Analyzer, basically free of charge. Now that Max C is pretty annoying. We have 2 options. We can either pass turn back to our opponent here, or we can absolutely rock this man. We've decided, you know what, I'm simply going to beat thine ass. That is the idea. We're going to go Adamancipator Seeker here. Seeker then going to special summon itself out to the field, and we are simply going to win. We're going to use Analyzer, checking the top 5 of the deck. They're going to tribute a monster here to negate us. We're going to use the Guardian to negate the negate. So our Analyzer does in fact resolve. This does make us somewhat reliant on our play resolving. So we need to hit a target here, but I don't imagine that being an issue. 3 in, there is the Xeno Guitar. Awesome. Xeno Guitar makes its way out. Supplier then also special summoning itself now that the rock was sent to the graveyard, grabbing ourselves another Guardian. Seeker special summoning another monster from the top of our deck here. We've hit the Guardian, or Supplier, sorry, but the Doki Doki is a much better target. Doki Doki's incredible. We're going to go Raptite. Raptite then checking the top 5 of the deck again. It's just so funny how this deck works. I love it so much. We're going to grab Roxy's from the top of the deck. Roxy's a link summoning into the Meow Meow Moo. That is fine. We're going to go Roxy's, sending Doki Doki, banishing it to draw 1 to summon Dropsies. Now we're going to Synchro Summon into Baron de Fleur on the off chance he was holding on to like an Imperm, on the, like a Nibiru or something like that. We just want to hold off on it. We're going to go Drag Out now. It gives us the Spell Trap Negate. Baron popping the Sprite Elf straight into the battle phase, and that is game. There you go, 3,000, 3,000, 1,000. He reduced his own life points by 1,200 off of his Sprite starter. So that's GG's. Pretty much as simple as that. And again, he may well have been I mean, not a lot of decks are playing Nibiru at the minute because Gigantic is Nibiru proof, right? So Gigantic makes the Sprite strategy sort of immune to Nibiru, and Sprite is literally everywhere. So people aren't really playing Nibiru. I'm not overly worried about it, to be honest, at the minute. So we were able to take full advantage of that, and again, on the off chance they did, there's Baron for you. So it is what it is. Another example of how to completely crush Runic Sprite, which is awesome. Of course, we did have Maxi, so you know what, you could say we sacked them, but I don't care. A win over Runic Sprite is a win in my book. Let's get into game 3. Already getting into game 3 here. We're going to be going first. We've got the Guardian on the field. Researcher then summoning itself out. Researcher checking the top 5 of our deck as per usual, looking for a summonable monster among them. We hit a couple Doki Doki there. That's what we're going to go for. Out comes Shifter. We are going to have to use our Guardian to negate that Shifter. We cannot afford to allow that thing to resolve. That would be a major problem. We're going to go Doki Doki, dropping the Roxy's. We do get hit with Ash Blossom though, which is really unfortunate. So now we're in a pretty rough spot. Shifter and Ash Blossom, Royal Ash Blossom too, which is beautiful. We are going to go into Herald of the Arclight, which at least gives us a negate, right? That's the plan. Not a fantastic situation to be in, but you know what? We're not out of the game yet. He does go into Denko Sekai, whatever. Denko Sekai. I don't know why I messed that one up. It's a pretty simple name. We are going to simply normal summon the Guardian. We're going to swing in, take out his monster. No reason not to. I did unfortunately forget that the Guardian needs to reveal a rock in hand or it'll destroy itself. Very rarely will your Guardian see the end of a turn, so I did forget. That's my bad completely. He's playing Dangers as well. Danger Bigfoot, fortunately for us, discarding itself. That would have been pretty bad if he didn't. So Danger Bigfoot discarding itself is pretty awesome. He's running 2 freaking Sekkas, which is really unfortunate. We are going to destroy it here before just ending our turn. We want to keep the supplier in hand on the off chance we basically get the ability to play the game if we draw a usable card. So we need to basically wait and see. We draw into the crystal. We're going to play the crystal in defense. 2200 booty here is going to be at least somewhat difficult to get over. He's going to summon Ecclesia then. Ecclesia tributing itself to summon out the Iris Sword Soul. That is a problem, and that's also Royal. God damn, people out here flexing on me with these Royals. They are going to take out our crystal, which is unfortunate, but that just is the way it is. We draw into Dropsies here. Hopefully we can get some plays going with Dropsies. We're going to preemptively use Impermanence, stopping the Iris Sword Soul from doing any shenanigans. We're going to go into the Cat here. Unfortunately, we get hit with another Ash Blossom. We cannot catch a break, and this, I'm pretty sure, marks the end of the game. Yeah, again, it was simply too much. We couldn't get through it. So there you go. That's a demonstration of the fact that the deck does definitely has its counters. We opened a pretty decent hand, and we still took an L to an off-meta strategy. So it just comes down to sometimes you just don't have as much gas as you would like. Adamancipators can be somewhat reliant upon that, but again, none more so than any other deck, right? Playing through Shifter and Ash and something else. Playing through Shifter and Ash and still being able to set up a negate is better than what a lot of decks can do. So you know what? It is what it is. I'm not even too angry at it. Let's get into game 4. Already getting into game 4 here. An interesting hand, not exactly the greatest, but having the double Adamancipators is at least something here. Hopefully we're able to hit a decent card off of our Seeker, and we do. We hit a couple of decent cards. We're going to go into the Crystal. We've already used our normal summon, so I think the Crystal draw 1 definitely opens up more possibilities. But besides, we hit the Supplier on our second mill anyway. So Supplier comes out, grabs us the Guardian. There you go, plus 4 basically, which is incredible. We're going to go Raptite here. Raptite then checking the top of our deck yet again. The difference between Raptite and the others is Raptite can actually summon a tuner, whereas the others cannot. We're going to summon Doki Doki, which will drop our Guardian to grab us a Roxy's. We could also have dropped the other Doki Doki to grab us a Researcher, but again, it is what it is. We're going to banish the Doki Doki in hand to draw 1. We draw the Droplet, which is pretty awesome. We're going to go into Doodle Doo here. Doodle Doo summons out another Roxy's from deck before going into Gallant Granite. Gallant Granite's going to grab us a Block Dragon. Yep, Block Dragon pretty solid. We're going to banish 3 for Block Dragon before linking off into Masquerena, which is solid. Then we're going to grab Researcher, our Xeno Guitar, as well as a Seeker directly from the deck. Researcher, of course, has not been summoned this turn, so we are going to summon it out. Going into Baron de Fleur here so we can open up some zones. We're going to Researcher, summon out another monster from the top of our deck, assuming we get lucky enough to draw 1, and we don't. There you go. We are going to, however, summon out our Cheng Ying by resurrecting the Block Dragon, basically. And there you go. So basically a full back row, Baron, Cheng Ying, IP, Max C. This whole field is disgusting. They do shuffle all of our cards back to the hand, which, you know, it is what it is. They're going to go Raigeki. This guy literally sacked the hell out of us. He goes Giant True Need into Raigeki. Who the hell is this guy? He's going to go Triple Tactics Talent now to draw 2 cards. This guy is actually the best at the video game. Before going Reload, and then we realized he might actually be the worst at the video game. We're going to go double Reload. We're now going to go Seals Band. I'm pretty sure he chose IP Masquerena. We activated it because why not? And yeah, skips it up. So I don't know what the hell that guy was on. But there you go. Yet another incredible setup. Very, very difficult board for them to try and break, especially considering the amount of interruption we had in hand. And yeah, pretty much as simple as that. Let's get into the deck profile. Alrighty, getting into the deck profile then, we do play quite a few flex spots, but you do want to keep as many rock monsters in your deck as possible. I'm going to very quickly remove these staples and everything so we know exactly what we're looking at. We've got the triple Max C, we've got the triple Ash Blossom, we've got the... I mean, the Nibiru is technically a flex spot, but because it's searchable, I think at least one copy of it is really solid. We do have the double Lightning Storm, double Call by the Grave, Cross-Out Designator, Forbidden Droplet, and a singular Infinite Impermanence, just as a cross-out target. So this is the deck that we are left over with. This is your core. You can, I mean, I say core loosely, you can chop and change this. The most important cards are, of course, the Adamancipator cards. You can play the Prank Kids. If you're going to cut the Prank Kids, make sure you cut the cards in the extra deck as well. It gives you a bit more flexibility. But this is generally what we were playing. So let's go through it. Doki Doki. Or sorry, before we go through it, I do very briefly want to just recap what the deck actually does. So the deck relies upon these three monsters right here, the Adamancipators. All three of them do virtually the same thing, where they reveal the top 5 cards of your deck, and if you find a level 4 or lower non-tuner rock monster among them, you get to special summon it to your field. And all three of these monsters are tuners, so they can't special summon each other, but they can be used for synchro summons. They have a similar effect to Raptite here. Raptite can check the top 5 of the cards for a rock monster and special summon it to your field. In defense, it is not limited by level, and it is not limited by whether or not it is a tuner, so you can use Raptite to summon these guys from deck as well as anything else, like a Nibiru. I don't know why you would, but you can. So that's generally what you're relying upon, and everything else sort of works off as an extension of those effects that either begin combos on their own, like Roxy's, or gain effects when special summoned, like the Supplier, things like Guardian, which are useful in the field. So everything sort of extends off of these 3 cards. Beginning with Doki Doki. Doki Doki, you discard a rock monster to special summon another rock monster from your deck that has the same attribute and level as the monster you discarded, which is an excellent way of getting into your Adamancipators if you didn't open up with them. It's also a phenomenal target to be summoned off of their effects. Doki Doki, phenomenal card. Absolutely mandatory 3 of. We're playing Dropsies and Roxy's as part of a little engine here. So we're playing Dropsies in particular because our Dragite likes to have a water monster in the graveyard. So the Dropsies is definitely a mandatory little option for the Prank Kids engine if you're playing Prank Kids. Basically, whenever the Prank Kids are used for a link summon for another Prank Kids monster, you will summon another Prank Kid from the deck, right? So Roxy's will summon a Dropsies, Dropsies will then summon a Roxy's again. So basically, it's a couple of free special summons, plus it puts a water monster in your graveyard to ensure your Dragite is useful. Seeker, special summon this card if you control an Adamancipator monster, and then it does the whole milling cards thing. Researcher, you special summon this if you control a rock monster, and then it does the whole milling thing. Gigantes can special summon itself from the hand by banishing an earth monster in the graveyard. A decent level 4 extender that you can search off of Gallant Granite, as well as being a decent-ish top deck. Pretty solid card. The Kawakai Miru Guardian, this is unironically one of the deck's better normal summons. It doesn't actually generate any advantage, but because things like your Researcher can special summon themselves to the field if you control a rock monster, this plus Researcher is awesome because this gives you a negate for any monster effects. So if they've got Ash Blossom, Maxi, Nibiru, anything like that, the Kwakamiru Guardian gives you an instant negate to protect your combos, which is awesome. Also a really good card to special summon off of these guys' effects. Generally speaking, a lot of people play this at 3. I agree with them. I think playing this at 3 is a decent idea. I don't think there's a reason not to. I personally have been playing it at 2. I haven't seen a reason to bump it up to 3. But if you wanted to play 3 of it, I'm with you. We've got the Revival Golem. Whenever this card is sent from the deck to the graveyard, you get to special summon this card out to the field or add it to your hand, which is somewhat decent. Again, in this particular version of the deck, because we're not playing like that grass looks greener or anything like that, this card isn't as useful. It's mainly here to be sent off of something like Foolish Burial, So if you wanted to replace this with like a third Guardian, I wouldn't blame you. I wouldn't tell anybody, is what I'm saying. Like, I personally, I wouldn't tell anybody. Roxy's we've already talked about briefly. Analyzer, if your opponent is the only person who controls a monster, you can special summon this card from a hand. So while these two require you to control a monster, the Analyzer specifically requires you to not control a monster and your opponent instead control a monster. So a little bit better for going second, but again, does the whole same milling top 5. But this guy's a level 4 tuner, which is somewhat more useful because it allows you to go into Baron de Fleur more consistently. So Analyzer definitely really solid. There's a reason it's semi-limited. You've got the Adamancipator Crystal is here for 2 main reasons. Number 1, it's a free summon off of your rock effects. Number 2, it's water, so if it's in your graveyard, then it means your drag out a synchro monster is live and can use its negate. And lastly, if it's summoned off of the effect of an Adamancipator monster, you get to draw a card. So it's just a little +1 if you happen to hit it from the top of the deck. It's a water monster, which is super useful. And it can also recycle a water synchro monster that is in your graveyard back to the extra deck and place itself back on top of the deck. So if your drag out ever gets dealt with, the Adamancipator Crystal drag out can recycle it. Kawakai Miru Supplier. The Supplier, whenever rock monsters you control is sent to the graveyard, you can special summon it from your hand, and if it is special summoned, you can grab a Kawakai Miru card directly from the deck. Just a really solid extender. Easy summon from your hand, as well as being able to grab a copy of the Guardian from the deck. I mean, because you're running Supplier, maybe instead of running 3 Guardians, what you might want to do instead is run, not Sandman, you're a trap card. This guy here, the Kawakai Miru Wall. This guy is very similar, except he can... yeah, he can tribute himself to negate a spell card effect instead. So if you maybe wanted to play 2 Guardian and 1 copy of Wall, that's also a really good idea. But it's up to you. Most people just play Guardian because it helps keep your combos safer. But Wall is definitely a very good option because Supplier adds a lot of versatility. Then we got the Xeno Guitar. Whenever it's sent to the graveyard, target a rock monster in your deck. In your graveyard, accept this card and add it to your hand. Then place 1 card from your hand on top of the deck. That's very useful because remember, you're summoning cards from the top of your deck off of your Adamancipators. So that is pretty solid. It has one other effect where if it's banished from the field or graveyard, you can send a rock monster from your deck to the grave. So this is going to be one of the cards that make the Revival Golem useful, as well as Foolish Burial, right? That's why it was still here. But again, because we're not playing that Grasslock Screener, it's probably not worth it. It can, of course, send your Block Dragon to the grave, although typically Block Dragon is how you're banishing it. So it's a little bit of a finicky effect. It will definitely come up. It's very solid. But it's not going to be an every game type occurrence, right? Then you've got, of course, Block Dragon, which is insane. I don't know why this card is still legal. Even at 1, it still feels somewhat oppressive. You special summon it from your hand or graveyard by banishing 3 Earth monsters from your hand or graveyard, which makes it incredibly easy to summon, and that's not once per turn. You can do that as many times per turn as you want. So long as this card is face up, rock monsters you control cannot be destroyed by anything except battle. So it protects all of your rock monsters, which is things like your drag out and such. And then if this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, this effect is once per turn, add up to 3 rock monsters from your deck to your hand whose total levels equal 8. So you can add like a 4 and a 4, or a 4, a 2 and a 2, whatever it is. It basically gets to grab you 2 or 3 cards directly from your deck, which is absolutely insane. Block Dragon's incredible, for sure. Then we've got Nibiru. Searchable Interruption. We know what Nibiru does. Tributes the whole field. Incredible. And this deck can search for it off of things like your Gallant Granite, which is useful. Although typically the board that you summon is going to be infinitely more valuable than what you're going to attempt to Nibiru. So the likelihood of you resolving this card after searching for it is very, very low. You don't have to play this card, but I feel like, you know, it's a searchable interruption. If we brick and the only monster we can summon is Gallant Granite, then it gives us at least an interruption, right? And final card is Foolish Burial. Foolish Burial, sending your Xenoguitar, your Block Dragon, your... well, Revival Golem is definitely an option. if you're playing Revival Golem, send Revival Golem, Xeno Guitar, Block Dragon, or basically just anything you need to the graveyard. Like if you really need a water monster in the grave, by all means. If you need just an extra extender in the grave for things like Gigantes, go ahead. Foolish Burial, it's mainly here for your Block Dragon and Xeno Guitar though, and to a lesser extent Revival Golem if you play it. And that is the main deck. Getting into the extra deck then, this is where there's a little bit of room for flex. We're playing Herald of the Arclight. It's a level 4 synchro monster that can basically tribute itself to negate something. It also, while it's face up, your opponent can't send cards from, I believe it's the hand or main deck to the graveyard, yeah. So it stops your opponent from using certain strategies as well as acting as a negate. Plus, it being level 4 means that if you're stuck in a situation where maybe you summon Doki Doki and then like a Seeker and you get Ash Blossomed like you saw in the gameplay, well, you can just go into Herald and pass, right? It's at least something. You've got your Raptite. Raptite, we've already talked about this. We'll check the top 5 cards of the deck, special summon a rock monster among them. Pretty awesome. It's a level 6 non-tuner, which works really well alongside all of your Adamancipator tuners, which is awesome. Borreload Savage Dragon, and when summoned, target a link monster in your graveyard and equip it onto this card as material. It gains counters equal to the link rating of that monster, and per counter, it gets a once per turn Omni Negate. It also gains half the attack points of the monster equipped onto it. Generally speaking, one of the more powerful generic level 8 synchro monsters in the game. Definitely a really solid card. Then you've got Dragite. Dragite, 2 main effects. During your main phase, so this card is actually really phenomenal going both first and second, because if you're going first of all, if you have a water monster in your graveyard, you can negate a spell or a trap effect once per turn. That's really good. But its arguably more powerful effect is the fact that during your main phase, you can reveal the top 5 cards of your deck, right? And instead of summoning a rock monster among them, what you do is you return cards on your opponent's field back to their hand equal to the number of rock monsters you milled. So if you reveal 5 rocks off the top of your deck, you're going to send 5 cards on their field back to the hand. That's incredible. Absolutely incredible. And again, it does get a once per turn spell and trap card negate, which is also awesome. So Dragite, definitely in a deck like this, actually playing rock monsters is the most impactful level 8 synchro monster. Far and away. Absolutely. You can even, honestly, if you have 2 of this card, play 2 of it. It's that good. Then we've got Baron de Fleur. Once while face up, it gets an Omni Negate, shuts something down, and once per turn, you can pop a card in the field, which is solid. It can also tag itself out during the standby phase, bouncing itself back to the extra deck to resummon any monster from your graveyard, which is also sometimes useful. Then, Sword Soul Supreme Sovereign Cheng Ying, just a generic level 10 synchro monster. This card is incredibly powerful. You will find yourself using level 10 synchros quite a lot. There's not a ton of really good ones. These 2 I think are definitely the best. Let me just have a look here. Yeah, all of these are super specific. You could use the Ruddy Rose Dragon if you really wanted to. But that's pretty much it. Those are your options. The Ruddy Rose Dragon, Baron de Fleur, and the Supreme Sovereign is pretty much it. So I don't have the Ruddy Rose Dragon, of course, but even then, I still think the Cheng Ying is more impactful. If it ever were to be destroyed, you can banish a card in your graveyard instead, and if a card would be banished, once per turn, you can banish 1 card from your opponent's field and graveyard. So it protects itself, plus it is removal on both the field and the grave, so this card is definitely really, really powerful. Then we've got the Gallant Granite, which basically, let me bring it up here. Gallant Granite will detach a material once per turn, search for any rock monster from your deck to your hand, or you can special summon a rock monster from your hand in face down defense. You're almost always going to activate the first effect, search your deck for any rock monster, grabbing a Researcher, grabbing a Seeker, grabbing a Gigantes, grabbing a Block Dragon, all of these really powerful cards that can just special summon themselves. Gallant Granite is incredible. We're running Balinks. Balinks could also be Lingeribo. So it could. It's basically here to get rid of Ibly, right? Because Sprite are still playing Ibly, you need to be able to get rid of Ibly in order to start all of your plays, so being able to just link it off into Lingeribo, I think Lingeribo was way better than Balinks. because it also gives you the ability to negate a trap card. So if they're playing Imperm, Super Factorial, anything like that, you can negate. Really good, and is strictly here to get rid of Ibly. You've got the Meow Meow Moo. This and the Doodle Doo is to do your prank kit engine. So you will use one of your prank kits on the field, link off into this. That'll trigger the prank kit that you just summoned in order to special summon the other prank kit from deck, in which case you will then link summon into the Doodle Doo, then triggering your monster yet again. So ideally you want to summon Roxy's, link Roxy's off into Meow. Roxy's then will summon your Dropsies. You want to link Dropsies and Meow off into the Doodle Doo. That will trigger Dropsies to summon out your Roxy's, and now you've got a link to a Prank Kid Rock Monster on the field and a Water Monster in your graveyard. All free of charge. Absolutely insane. That is the idea there anyway. You don't have to play the little Prank Kid engine. I appreciate sometimes it gets in the way, and eating up 2 slots in a very tight extra deck is also a little bit of an ask for an engine, so it's up to you whether or not you want to play those. You can cut them out for more hand traps, cut them out for more generic rock monsters. It's up to you. We've got Masquerena, of course. Masquerena being able to link someone on your opponent's turn into something like the Nightmare Unicorn, which will discard a card and spin a card on the field back into the deck on summon. So IP Masquerena and Unicorn are an incredible engine. We've got Apollousa, which you will use quite heavily in this deck, more so than in others, because you will almost always be able to summon out a 3200 attack Apollousa, which gives you 4 monster negates, because you can flood the field like it's nobody's business, right? That's what this deck does. It is insane. And lastly then, we've got the Access Code Talker. Basically summons itself out, boosts itself up to 5300 attack points, banishes link monsters from the graveyard to pop a bunch of cards, and you win the game. Basically, Access Code Talker is one of your main methods of pushing for lethal, although you're not lacking options. With things like your Dragite, your Baron, and your Supreme Sovereign, you're not lacking options for lethal. So Access Code Talker, most of the time, isn't even necessary. You've already got game. But there you go. It is a incredibly, in fact, I'm going to discard changes just so we can bring it up and look at the full thing. It is an incredibly modifiable deck. It is insanely versatile. You can do virtually whatever you want to it, right? You can play it at 60, you can play it at 40, you can mess with the extra deck, play the prank kids, drop the prank kids, do whatever. It is incredible in that regard. So if you're interested in a real combo deck that embodies the word combo, this is where you need to go. Ton of fun. If you got this far into the video and you haven't subscribed yet for whatever reason and haven't liked the video, I would implore you to do so. It doesn't cost you anything. It helps me out, and obviously you've liked something you've seen if you've gotten this far into the video, and I hope to see you on the next one. Bye bye.